In 2013, Carl Benedict Frey and Michael Osborne of the Martin School, Oxford University, used a machine learning algorithm to assess how easily 702 different kinds of job in America could be automated. They concluded that 47% could be done by machines over the next decade or two. Although the study was of the US employment market, similar results could be expected in other developed countries. As you can imagine, the press went mad, and a lot of journalists rolled out their usual blood-curdling dystopian predictions for our future. But is this something we should really worry about? Let's see.
Hello, it's quite cold today. Welcome to this episode of One Question Leads to Another. And the question is, are robots going to steal our jobs? Now, loads of books have been written on this subject, and to be honest, I think I've read most of them. The writers of these books disagree among themselves, fundamentally because they don't actually agree on what AI, digital intelligence, will be capable of in the future, but at a deeper level, they ask themselves the questions: if artificial intelligence reaches human level intelligence, will it be conscious? Will it be alive? Anyway, I'm not going to get involved in that philosophical question, at least not today. I'm just going to look at the question of whether artificial intelligence and robots will take away our jobs. Let's have a look.
Let's start from the optimist point of view. The argument goes like this, that there's nothing really to worry about, and in fact, mechanisation has been with us for centuries, and it accelerated in the early industrial revolution, particularly in areas like textiles, in which a lot of workers were replaced by machines. In the 17th and early 18th centuries, mechanisation, for example, in the textile industries, created efficiencies that wiped out a huge number of jobs, particularly cottage industries and self-employed craftsmen, spinners, weavers, carders, knitters, and so on. And most of these people were forced into the factories to mind machines. This obviously brought down prices and created more jobs overall than it had been destroyed. And of course, this is true. There are examples throughout history, as we can see, and in almost every area of employment, particularly in agriculture and in manufacturing, we have seen machines come in and take away particularly low-skilled physical work. It's also clear that some jobs disappeared because they were just no longer needed. Take, for example, ice cutters. Ice cutters existed because refrigerators for domestic use were exorbitantly expensive, and in fact, the early fridges were quite dangerous. So it was cheaper and easier to transport ice across the world. It seems extraordinary today to think that companies in countries like Scandinavian countries, Canada, New England, and the United States, name but a few, cut ice into blocks, transported it to the coast, put it on ships, and in some cases sent it to cities halfway across the world. Obviously, with refrigeration, all of these industries died out. Another one that I like here is the knocker-upper. And as we can see, these people found employment in a period when the majority of working people needed to wake up in time to go to the factories, but could not afford alarm clocks. And of course, when alarm clocks became affordable for ordinary people, the job, which was normally done by people in retirement, disappeared. And this happens all the time. It's not just that the technology exists, but the technology becomes cheaper than employing a person. Another amusing one is, you can see here, the pin setters in bowling alleys before they were mechanised. Up to this point, the jobs that were replaced by machines tended to be simple and repetitive jobs. Jobs that involved more human intelligence continued to be done by human beings. Think of people like the early telephone operators and so on. But gradually these jobs started to disappear as well. Assembly line workers started to disappear and be replaced by robots. And in living memory, other jobs that were considered safe for many years started to go away. When I started work, all offices had typing pools, and the more high status employees had secretaries. Now, the copy typists have all gone, and only the privileged few have secretaries. Everybody else has personal computers. So as you can see, the same principle has continued up to the present day. And the argument still goes that most of the time when jobs disappear, they'll be replaced by less boring and sometimes less dangerous and dirty jobs. They draw your attention to the fact that before industrialization, over 80% of the population worked in agriculture. They worked long hours for low pay, and most of these people were happy to leave the farm and go into the factory. As mechanization and robots entered the factory, people moved into jobs in services, as we can see in these examples below. The problem now is that there is a new kid on the block. It is called machine learning. So machines can actually learn how to do new jobs. And the idea now is as these robots enter the service jobs, people say more and more of us will move into creative work. So surely that is a good idea. Some people might say that, okay, in service industries, the very simple jobs could be taken over by robots. But what about the more skilled professions? What about the law? Well, contrary to the image presented by the film industries, most lawyers do not spend their time in courtrooms shouting objection. In fact, most lawyers rarely see the inside of a courtroom from one year to the next. A large part of this professional work involves effectively research and processing data. Exactly the work that artificial intelligence excels in. And we are seeing legal assistants and paralegals all over the world being replaced. Okay, what about medicine? Well, also here medicine is at risk. A lot of diagnostic work involves pattern recognition. Artificial intelligence is great at this as well. It seems that artificial intelligence is already outperforming human radiologists in tests. And of course, people might be unwilling to put their health into digital hands. But with most governments struggling with their health budgets and the enormous savings that AIs will create, combined with the elimination of human error, well, we will see. In fact, many aspects of professional work are at higher risk than some of the manual work. So, for example, it's a lot easier to replace many clerical jobs than it is to replace drivers. But that could happen as well. There are also predictions that teachers and other professionals could be at least in part replaced. However, returning to the study at the Martin School in Oxford, there is something else to be said about this. If you care to look in detail at what the research found, it doesn't just talk about jobs, it talks about functions or tasks within a job. And so yes, maybe 50% of functions within a job will be replaced, but not necessarily the entire job. So for example, a teacher may set a homework, and if it's a simple quiz type homework, the teacher does not have to mark it, but can just use a simple program to do it for him or her. And there are many other examples of this. So it's more likely that there will be fewer people needed in each of these professions. Each one of us will be more efficient. This is already happening. And so, yes, there will be reductions in the number of people in these professions. There will be an opportunity for people to retrain. Many people say that the safest place now is the creative world. And yes, this could be right. So even if artificial intelligence takes over a large part of the service industry, we can move into the creative industry. But how many songwriters do we need? How many composers? How many authors? Is it really possible for us to spend all our time appreciating each other's works of art? And how many of us are really capable of that? There is another question here, is that some AIs have shown some promise also in this area. I'll leave a link to one of the websites which covers this, and you have to read text and try to understand whether they're written by humans or by AIs. The other issue is that these jobs come and go much more quickly than in the past. A factory assembly line worker existed for many generations, a telephone operator for less time. Each profession is born and dies more quickly. How often will a person need to reinvent themselves in a lifetime? The problem really is that if you think about somebody who's starting school today at the age of 5 or 4 or 6, depending on the country you're in, we have no idea what sort of world that child will face when they finish their education. So it's all still up in the air. Certainly jobs will disappear, others may be born, and we really just do not know what might happen. But we can protect ourselves, I think.
So, if you want to know whether a job will be safe, secure in the future, you need to ask yourself perhaps these 5 questions. 1 is, do I need great interpersonal skills? 2, is my job creative? Does it demand creativity? 3, is it unpredictable? 4, do I need dexterous skills, manual dexterity, and so on? And 5, is it a niche job, a job that doesn't demand many people? In other words, it's going to be a big investment just to automate a very small number of jobs. If the answer to these questions is generally yes, then you should be all right. I'm going to attach a link in the comments box to a quiz which has been produced by Brian Rees. Brian Rees wrote the book called The Fourth Age, Smart Robots, Conscious Computers and the Future of Humanity. Not exactly a snappy title, but it's a very interesting book. So if you do the quiz, it should give you some idea about how secure your type of work will be. Anyway, that's all for now.